Hey there, my name's Faith Harvieux, and my partner is Megan Michaud. And today we are going to be talking about our action research project. And we did our project on the impact of targeted social emotional development on intrinsic motivation and academic achievement on gifted fifth grade students in public versus private school settings. While it is generally accepted within education that social emotional development opportunities are a critical component of every child's education, most school systems provide little or no time for them. So today we're going to talk about the problem that we noticed, which I just mentioned, but we'll dive a little deeper. Then we're going to talk about our research questions, what we did for our action research, our research findings, our suggestions, and then some further research that we want to do.
All right, beginning with the problem that we found and we're looking to address in our action research project. Gifted students tend to experience more social emotional conflicts earlier than their same age peers, especially in school. And this is due to the incongruities between their cognitive age and their chronological age. These can include things like developmental abilities, interests, environments, and social expectations, which are all things to which gifted students may respond differently if their cognitive and chronological ages are out of sync with one another. To create an appropriately responsive environment in the classroom, educators must wear the hats of mentors and counselors in addition to being teachers. But the problem is that they don't receive formal training on adopting these roles, and they don't have time to implement them in the classroom while still meeting the standards in the curriculum. So to meet the needs of gifted students, educators must incorporate social emotional development into the classroom environment, which requires a comprehensive approach that includes creating a social context, teaching social skills, and facilitating the children's emotional development. All of these things have to be done at the same time as those same teachers are meeting the standards, expectations of their administrators or stakeholders, and accomplishing acceptable standardized test scores. So there's not a lot of time for that social emotional development to be incorporated into the classroom and still accomplish everything else. The research questions we came up with when we were initiating our research and looking at our first data collections were, does the implementation and incorporation of targeted social emotional development within the curriculum affect intrinsic motivation in gifted fifth graders from public and private school settings? Question 2, does the implementation and incorporation of targeted social emotional development within the curriculum affect academic achievement in gifted fifth graders from public and private school settings? Question 3, how does the overall school setting impact the intrinsic motivation and academic achievement of gifted fifth grade students in public versus private school settings? Question 4, how do administrator to educator communication and policy flexibility impact the intrinsic motivation and academic achievement of gifted fifth graders in public versus private school settings? And finally, question 5, how does attendance impact the intrinsic motivation and academic achievement of gifted fifth grade students in public versus private school settings? Something that we came up with that we thought was a good analogy for this is an analogy for water and hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen are interesting elements, but when they come together, it's something entirely new. They become water. The two elements cannot be separated, and they still remain anything remotely like what you had when they were together. Gifted students, in the same way, can't develop to their fullest potential, and they can't achieve ultimate self-efficacy if their social and emotional needs are removed from their school experience. They need both, and both need to be appropriately developed. Integrating targeted social emotional development into the curriculum and classroom is a crucial aspect of teaching to the whole child. And this is the approach that is integral to gifted student success and ultimately to the competencies that will allow them to be successful and satisfied with their adult lives, that what will allow them to become successful adults.
So now I'm going to talk about our action research and how we went about trying to aim to fix that problem. So our study was conducted in 2 different schools, which serve the additional purpose of determining the impact of school environment. So the first school that we focused on was Winhold Elementary, which is where I, Faith, work. And that's a public school. In this setting, fifth graders who are gifted are pulled out of class once a week. And this is on Thursdays, where students are offered accelerated math and reading classes, and those are based on their individual test scores. The school setting, the median household income is $52,585. And we also serve 1,152 students in grades pre-K through fifth. We have an average student-teacher ratio of 14:1, which is a lot different than the other school that we worked with. And we kind of liked seeing those differences, and it really helped us understand that extra thing about public versus private school. So Fulton Science Academy, which is where Megan works, is in Alpharetta, Georgia. And this whole school system is designed to serve advanced and gifted students. But students of all levels remain in their homeroom classrooms and are offered curriculum acceleration and curriculum compacting. The school setting is a lot different from the Winhold Elementary, and the median household income is $113,000. And they only serve 740 kids, but that's through pre-K through 12th grade. And their student-teacher ratio is almost half of Winhold Elementary, which is 8:1. So for our initial data collection for our research, we did a lot of surveying. So we surveyed fifth grade gifted students, we surveyed fifth grade teachers, and we also surveyed the administration from both schools. Our questions in our surveys focused mainly on student motivation and achievement, the incorporation of social emotional learning, the communication between educators and administrators, and the level of flexibility and autonomy administrators offer educators. So there were several key points from our initial data collection on which we based the design of our study. So attendance at the public school, where 11% of students are chronically absent, is significantly lower than at the private school, where the majority of students maintain perfect attendance. Teachers in public schools work more closely with their administrators, and private school teachers have greater classroom autonomy. When surveyed, public school students said that they were significantly more likely to become distracted than the private school students did. And we kind of thought about the settings in this situation, maybe because public school students have so many more kids in the classroom, we could see how this could become an issue. Teachers with greater classroom autonomy have more motivated students. Is something that we totally were able to see through the survey. And then at the private school, social emotional learning is implemented daily, while at the public school, teachers express that they implement it on a needs basis. And we saw that connection between administrators as well.
All right, I'm going to talk about the suggestions and goals that we have for our action research project. So for our action research project, we plan on continuing our research because it needs a greater time period than what we can do in one semester. So this is based on our initial data collection and what we know and where we hope to continue with it as we progress. So our current suggestions and goals are the daily implementation of social emotional learning. We have seen in our initial data collection that at the private school where social emotional learning is a daily target and it's incorporated into the school day, which is also a longer school day, we have seen from our surveys that those students who experience that say they're more likely to keep trying if something is hard, and that they're less likely to give up if they're challenged. Our second suggestion is online opportunities for social emotional learning when students are not present. This is especially important right now during the hybrid schooling environment, which at this point, I think we can expect to continue into the next school year at least. And finally, teacher and administrative training on social and emotional learning. Something that we noticed at both schools was a discrepancy between what the administrators said they were doing regarding social emotional development in their schools and what the teachers said they were doing. So we would like to address that gap and make it more cohesive between administrators and teachers. The goal of our action research suggestion is to implement a targeted social emotional learning plan that focuses on students' affective needs at least 2 to 3 times weekly during the school day. This would be just a quick, maybe 10 or 15-minute lesson that's specifically targeted to each individual class, but is incorporated into the curriculum either every day or at least 2 to 3 times weekly. The system will continue for at least one semester, but ideally for a full school year, which is why we plan on continuing our action research project after the things we discovered in our initial data collections. Students, teachers, and administrators will be surveyed at designated intervals throughout the study, and student grades, attendance, and motivation rating scales will be examined alongside their survey results. Second step is one of the programs that target social emotional development. So this is something that we could propose to the administrators at both schools as something they could incorporate or try to see if it helps address the problems of motivation and achievement with the students. It's a holistic approach to building supportive communities for every child through social emotional learning, and it goes through every grade level. So they provide a curriculum, a teacher handbook, literature to accompany it, and you use those mini lessons and incorporate them into your actual curriculum so that you can still teach the standards while you're also teaching social emotional learning targets. At the end of the study, student responses regarding motivation will be examined in comparison to the answers they gave at the beginning of the study, and we will determine the extent to which our study and our action research impacted motivation. Our study aims to solve the problem of inconsistency in social emotional learning areas and to show how taking 10 to 15 minutes of time during the school day to focus on social skills, life skills, relationships, and emotions can have a significant and lasting impact on gifted students' intrinsic motivation and academic achievement, regardless of the school environment.
Thank you guys so much for listening to our presentation today. We hope you enjoyed it.